Hello and welcome to this video on one of the more infamous Nobel Prize winners. The Nobel Prize is of course a prestigious award, something given for discoveries that changed the world. These could be the creation of the atomic bomb, serum therapy for diphtheria, authoring great works, and bringing peace to the Middle East, though that one's yet to be awarded. You can likely see the value in writing amazing books, atomic power, and using serum therapy in treating diseases. Peace is nearly always desirable. How then does drinking a beaker full of bacteria fit into this? It honestly sounds far more like a lab accident leading to a comic book villain than the makings of a Nobel Prize winner. The how and why is actually somewhat more convoluted than just what the award was given for. What we are talking about is the 2005 Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine. It was awarded to Marshall and Warren. This is also the same prize given for the discovery of nitric oxide in cardiovascular disease, ion channels in cells, production of monoclonal antibodies, and the relationship between tumours and viruses. This is company that would make many researchers jealous. Marshall and Warren earned their place in such prestigious company by identifying the role of Helicobacter pylori in stomach ulcers. Stomach ulcers were a common and significant issue for decades, decreasingly so in the Western and developed world, but increasingly so in developing countries. These directly affected quality of life and caused issues to do with diet, exercise, immunity, and could lead to cancer. There was also no real cure other than to prescribe antacids. Antibiotics were not overly effective in the stomach. Antacids had the effect of reducing stomach acid production. This reduced discomfort, and while reducing discomfort, it also reduced the activity of proteases in the stomach. This meant far less protein absorption. While stopping stomach acid from being an acid, it did not fix the problem. Once antacids were stopped, then they would go back to being in pain. This meant no permanent solution existed, but they also did not know what caused this. For a long time, it was thought stress caused stomach ulcers. This made some sense. Stress has been long known to predispose people to illness. As many of these cases of stomach ulcers were diagnosed in people with high-stress occupations, this fit. Of course, that was data derived from America, where medicine is only available to those with money. When you begin to expand the scope of patients with the diagnosis of stomach ulcers, stress suddenly becomes a far less effective predictor. If not stress, then something else is going on. It was known that ulcers were populated by bacteria. This bacterium were thought to be opportunistic infections, that is, they occurred due to the damage, but otherwise had no particular relationship to the ulcer. Bacteria was not thought to be the cause, but part of lifestyle, or lifestyle itself, was the primary driving factor. That is all well and good when you can create a model, but that is not what was happening. Still, no one would accept the theory that bacteria directly caused those stomach ulcers. This was evidenced by the fact that if you used antibiotics, and they were used, the infection itself did not go away permanently. In fact, it's currently thought that it's likely to be a lifelong infection. This meant that there was no effective model of what was causing these stomach ulcers. This was further complicated by how antibiotics worked. You needed to stop the stomach acid from working so the antibiotics could do their job. They then had to give enough antibiotics for long enough to kill off what they thought was the infectious agent. Then the host needed to recover and heal the ulcers, and after all of this, you'd stop the antacids from their job. Once they were resumed, the body could go back to how it functioned normally. If the immune system was back to normal, and the infection was cleared up to a satisfactory extent, then yes, you would keep it underhand. But if that did not happen, all you would do would be resume what things were like before treatment was begun. In order to figure out what was going on, then you needed to start looking at patients, and the general idea from the research by Warren and Marshall was that this was not likely to happen without evidence of bacterial involvement, and they were looking for just that. They took biopsies from patients. After years, they were able to culture an unknown bacterium. This bacteria was the previously mentioned Helicobacter pylori. This was strong evidence, but it wasn't well received. It was an otherwise previously unknown bacteria, and they did find 100 samples that had it. There is a commonality and predictability to what they were doing, yet still within medical circles there was resistance. How then do you prove this? This is where Marshall and Warren come in. They had their insides scoped and assessed for infection. It was clear, and they had no infection or ulcers prior to the experiment. They also did not have the bacteria present. This is important. They could clearly show a before and after model. They cultured a beaker of Helicobacter pylori, the bacteria they thought was causing the ulcers. After this, they consumed their tasty beverage. This led to infection and increasing ulcerations over 2 weeks. This was as clear-cut a case of cause and effect as you could possibly get. Their model was simple, effective, and reliable. They could then start designing the right treatment process. To begin with, most treatment now uses some sort of hydrochloric acid or hydrogen inhibitor so that the stomach can't pump out acid. That prevents it from working at all as intended, but it means antibiotics can have their targeted effect in the stomach as they need to, and very specifically target Helicobacter pylori. That's all well and good, and it's fundamentally why they won their prize. But having heard everything so far, you may wonder why they would go and drink a beaker of bacteria. Surely there are better options available. The answer is weirdly simple. Human experimentation is not allowed without informed consent. Neither Marshall nor Warren could ever have gotten the ethics approval required to experiment on other humans by infecting them with Helicobacter pylori. This is a universal rule. There is just one small catch. Researchers cannot experiment on others, but they can experiment on themselves. This is why they drank their beaker of bacteria to prove their theory. It might sound odd, and all the more so for the fact they won a Nobel Prize for this, but remember, stomach ulcers that were caused by Helicobacter pylori could lead to many problems and diseases. Identifying the root cause and treating that is better than dealing with cancer, dietary issues, pain, and so on, with lifelong illness. This allowed treatments to be developed that stopped the problem in its tracks, rather than letting it develop into something chronic. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions that you have below.